to retaliate. When somebody comes to something, to get into this mood of retaliation, this we may identify as being simply a big waste of time. And opposite to control that tendency, to try to resist it, that's good because it develops the character. And it develops intelligence, because intelligence means to think before one acts. And the retaliation mood that we're speaking about here is not on the platform of intelligence, it's simply on the platform of false ego, and it works like this. It's instant, because the intelligence is switched off. There's no intelligence for intelligence, because the intelligence is switched off. You know, we just we can say don't put the impulse through the processor, just put it directly into the execution mode, like that. So this is one thing we can take from it, and I thought actually this is one of the main things. And so since we have today Ram Navami, I thought to speak a little bit about the character, the wonderful character of Lord Ramachandra. As we know, the Supreme Lord, he comes to establish his kingdom, Ram Rajya, and he also comes to give us all kinds of behavioral instructions, how human society or how human beings, they should act and live together. So one of the very most important things or lessons that Lord Ramachandra he had for us was how to respect one's elders. And this is actually nicely fitting with today's verse, because it's also about obedience to the spiritual master. We have some verses here quoted from the Guru-Vastakam. So Lord Ramachandra, he was very obedient to his father Dasaratha. And as we know, his father, he was approached by Vishwamitra Muni. At the time of Lord Ramachandra, there was a sage by the name Vishwamitra Muni, and he was engaged in a sacrifice in the forests. But some associates of Ravana, Marich and others, they were coming and they were spoiling his sacrifice. An interesting thing about Vishwamitra Muni was that actually previously he was a great king, a Rajarshi, like that, before he became a sage, a Brahmana sage. So actually he could have killed these demons very easily, because he knew how to fight, and now he had acquired the Brahminical Tejas, so he could have easily killed these demons, but he thought it was not proper of him to do so, because now it was supposed to be non-violent, as generally the Brahmanas, they go by the principle of non-violence. So in order to not to violate that, then he thought it proper to ask Maharaj Dasaratha, and not ask Maharaj Dasaratha because he knew who his sons were. So he wanted that Maharaj Dasaratha, he give his sons Ram and Lakshman for this particular task, to kill these demons who were spoiling the sacrifice. So as we know, when Maharaj Dasaratha was approached by Vishwamitra Muni, he was well received and honored. So, but when it came to his request, because Maharaj Dasaratha would ask him, "What can I do for you, dear sir?" So when Vishwamitra Muni, he put the request, "Please give me your two sons, I need them for these demons, they're coming and spoiling the sacrifice, and by putting so many obnoxious substances on the sacrificial arena and harassing the priests like that, So we cannot conduct the sacrifice. So we need your Ram and Lakshman to fight and kill these demons. So Maharaj Dasarath, of course, being father of Lord Ram, so he would only consider that he had just basically a teenager. He had just barely, embarked upon his military education. How is it that he could be sent to fight such big and fearsome demons? As we know, these are not human beings. Like Lord Ramachandra, he took birth in a dynasty of human beings. But as we know, Ravana, he was a Rakshasa, which are considered higher living entities. And his associates also other Rakshasas, which have mystic powers. And generally in the fight that is described in fighting between human beings and Rakshasas, the human beings, they stand not such a favorable odds, as the Rakshasas are able to use mystic powers like that. So generally when we hear, whenever a king is attacked by Rakshasa soldiers, then the king, most often he faces defeat. So Maharaj Dasarath, he was thinking, let me fight these Rakshasa demons, but not my son. He is barely a teenager, and he is not even fully educated in the military science. How is it that Vishwamitra Muni can ask for this? So, as we know, Maharaj Dasarath was very much disturbed by this request by Vishwamitra, that his just young sons should be sent for such a dangerous task. So, but still he had promised the sage that what can I do for you? So how would it look if he would simply go back on his promise or word? So Vishwamitra Muni, he became angry at first because Maharaj Dasarath was hesitating, and he was even suggesting that let me go, but not my sons. I'll take my army, but not my sons. They're not ready for this. So Vishwamitra Muni became angry, but then he pacified himself and then revealed something about the identity of his two sons, that these are not ordinary boys. These are not ordinary human beings. They are all powerful, being the personality of Godhead. So Maharaj Dasarath, he couldn't hear much of this. He was still, as we know, the associates which come to serve the Lord. They have their relationship with Him, and they're not easily disturbed out of that relationship. So, but nevertheless, by hearing the arguments, hearing Vishwamitra Muni, Maharaj Dasarath became somewhat pacified and agreed actually to let the sage take his sons with them out to the forest, and so fight and kill these demons that were disturbing the sacrifice. So so we mentioned this pastime because immediately upon being asked by their father, Maharaj Dasarath, then Ram and Lakshman, even though they were just young boys, and being asked to do such a seemingly very dangerous thing, they would just immediately agree and go with the sage. So this is one instance where we can see how Lord Ramachandra, he is actually setting an example that one should be very obedient, immediately be obedient to the order of one's elders. This is the first instance we can think of. And then there's another instance, which is one of the maybe focal points in the Ramayana. That is when Maharaj Dasarath is asked by his wife Kaikeyi that her son should be put as Prince Regent and Lord Ramachandra be sent to the forest, banned to the forest in exile, so that Maharaj Bharat can be king instead. So as we know, Maharaj Dasarath, he's completely unaware that anything like such will come from his wife. So when he hears the request of his wife, he's shocked beyond his senses. But even though he pleads with Kaikeyi, then she's not willing to let go of this desire. She's not going to withdraw her requests, and being duty bound because he has given her boon, or actually benediction that he will satisfy 2 boons. He will give her 2 boons. So her boon was that put my son Bharat as the monarch, and the second boon is send Lord Ramachandra to the forest. These were the 2 things she asked. So he had given these 2 boons, and he could not go back. So in that terribly distraught condition, Maharaj Dasarath, he approaches his son Ramachandra and then requested that, please Ramachandra, you go to the forest. When he gets this request, then again Lord Ramachandra immediately agrees, no argument. Why do I have to go to the forest? Yeah, I'm just about to be coronated. I'm supposed to become the monarch here. So why are you sending me to the forest? So again, Lord Ramachandra, he's setting an example for all human society, is that immediately upon being requested by his father, Ramachandra, you please go to the forest, then Lord Ram immediately accepts. Immediately says, yes. Yes, dear father, I will go to the forest. And he starts preparing himself. So these 2 instances are 2 important instances in the Ramayana, which points out how Lord Ramachandra has come here to teach us. And this is behavioral instructions. These are instructions meant to improve our character. As again, we are here to develop our character. So this shows obedience to the orders of elders. So this obedience to the orders of elders, if this is there, then we can see that our life, it goes smooth. But as soon as this is violated, as we violate this, then we can see how our lives become difficult. So much trouble is there. And those who are parents, those who have raised children, they must be able to have some experience of this. When the children become teenagers, generally in this part of the world, then the children, they become completely rebellious. Whatever the parents say, then the children, they do the opposite. When the parents say don't go out and get drunk and do nonsense, they go out, they get drunk and they do nonsense. And then, they get themselves in so much trouble like that. Especially in these teenage years, we see so many teenagers, they go astray, they get themselves in so much trouble. So this is also one way we can see that when there's disobedience to the elders, when the elders are disobeyed, then our lives, one's life, can get very messed up. It can get very difficult. And opposite, if one is able to simply obey one's elders, if one is in cooperation with one's elders, then one will avoid all that difficulty. So this is also a challenge. This is also, we have to take it upon ourselves as a challenge to see that the superiors we have, our father and mother, our spiritual authority, our spiritual master, like that, our local authorities, are we, how much are we in cooperation, how much are we, in obedience to these different superior personalities, and the more we are in obedience, then actually the less trouble we will have, the less difficulty will be there in our lives. So this has to be judged by one and all, because we have to measure this, how much are we actually obedient. And we can measure actually the amount of resistance when somebody gives us an instruction to do something. We can, sometimes we just feel immediately we don't want to do it. Whatever instruction we may get like that, we feel immediately, why should I have my agenda. So it is, it may be a point in which one may be struggling very much, and I can say for myself, it's one of the most difficult things to simply acknowledge that there's a person that knows better than me, and if I simply do what this person says, then it will be best for me. Because we have all kinds of idea what is best for us, and what we should do and what we shouldn't do. So it's very difficult. But this is a part of the character development, that one should be able to just listen from a superior person and take instructions. But this is most difficult. And actually, if we can do it nicely, then it's a very nice qualification for going back to Godhead. But if there's a big resistance there, then it's difficult, and we have something to work on. So I thought to mention this as one of the lessons that Lord Ramachandra he showed us. He showed us perfect obedience to his superiors, his father in particular, Maharaj Dasarat, and we can try to appreciate that unflinching obedience that Lord Ramachandra he displayed to his father. Try to meditate upon that obedience and see if we can muster just a speck of it, just a small grain of that type of obedience. And then we can hope by that grain of obedience to satisfy the Supreme Lord. And that can be our resolve, on the occasion of this appearance of Lord Ramachandra. I will suggest that as a meditation for the day. And with that, I'd like to stop here and ask if there's any comments or questions. Hare Krishna. Yes, Paul.
I was just thinking when Srila Prabhupada, he was personally instructing his disciples, some disciples, they really got it, like instructions that were like, kind of like the same thing as go to the forest for 14 years. He told his disciples to go to China and preach, start a center there. And some disciples may get instructions which are very easy to obey, which suits their nature and like that. So what makes that difference? Like some disciples, they get like something that's like really tough to handle, and some disciples, they get something more like easy to perform.
Well, we can maybe say that depends upon the discretion of the spiritual master. Because the spiritual master, he's working on individual cases. It's not, the disciples are not a homogeneous mass for the spiritual. They're not just servants that are supposed to do whatever like that. Actually, Prabhupada said that he saw his spiritual his disciples as gurus, in one sense. So how much attention and respect, was there in Srila Prabhupada dealing? So we know with Srila Prabhupada that it was very, measured. There wasn't anything done like superficially or like that. Whatever Prabhupada did was a profound and he had perfect information from the super soul. And it was a direct, as Sakshatari, Master Sahib, directly the quality of Hari's Supreme Personality of God was there with Srila Prabhupada. So he knew very well, the condition of each and the disciple. So whatever Prabhupada did, whatever he asked, in that sense, was perfectly addressed to that particular person. So we can only guess, because this is an advanced soul. This is a pure soul dealing with his disciples. So how can we, understand? We can only maybe address it from a more superficial, theoretical, aspect. But what we can take from is that the Shastra and the Shastras say that the one quality of the spiritual master that is able to perfectly engage a disciple according to his guna and karma. So that's actually a qualification of the spiritual master that is able to see what is the guna and karma in a disciple and then expertly engage him so that he'll be able to make advancement. That's actually stated in the Bhagavatam as a qualification of the spiritual master. So some of them, they got a very tall order, and some of them, they got even orders that may even seem to contradict the guna and karma. But when a disciple is advanced, when he's actually more purified, then he's even able to set aside his guna and karma and follow instructions which go contrary to his guna and karma. That is an advanced disciple. So yes, as you're pointing out, some they got instructions like that and they actually obeyed. So these are the more advanced followers who are not even attached to their own guna and karma that much anymore. While others, they will be more dependent on that, and they will struggle a lot more if they get services which go against their guna and karma. And then the spiritual master has to say that he may not ask such things from disciples like that yet. There may be some more purification. So these are just a few thoughts, and maybe other things. Yes, Keshapi.
Yeah, I just thought that, like the Radha Swami once time said that from the ladies, I expect them to be chaste and faithful. And he said somehow I'm very soft with the ladies, but with the men, I expect big things. I mean, it is just like how different we make spiritual advancement, how we are all able to like become pure devotees by the, like you said, the expert advice and instructions from our individual spiritual master. So for one, it is the perfect service to be a pujari. One time I asked that should we go out on Sankirtan if we think that it's too easy to be a pujari. And the spiritual master, I don't remember who I asked once, and he just, why should you serve contrary to your nature? Like if you are happy to be a pujari, like the spiritual master also just wants to see us ecstatic and pleased in our services. So we shouldn't do also something, if we are not told to do it, we should also just be satisfied in our service and be so grateful for that service.
Yeah. We were talking on different things, and we talked about young people, how difficult they are in that age. I have a good example from my son. He was so engaged in Maya totally up to his head, and I didn't know what to do. Like that, Krishna came into our life. I got a book on the streets, I gave it to him, he became my guru, Haribo. I'm sitting here. And that's, we should always understand that young people, they are very, they can be deep in Maya, but you can pull them out. You can pull them out. He's doing it every day. Pulling young people out, giving books on the street. It's wonderful. And we can also. We can engage ourselves in preaching to others every second of our life. And that is very important. Thank you.
So, we can stop here. That comes. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Sri Ramchandra ki jai.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.